Well, hello everyone and welcome to our webinar, RFID and cycle counting, increase speed at lower cost. Two housekeeping points before we get started. The session is being recorded and you will receive a link over the next few days by email. Secondly, please submit your questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A section, and we'll be addressing these towards the end of the webinar. Barcodes Group is a leading provider of barcode, mobile computing, and RFID solutions. Our solution platforms bring together hardware, software, supplies, and support. With RFID now delivering inventory accuracy verification in the high 90s, the solution is quickly becoming the most efficient and effective means of cycle counting, saving companies countless labor hours of manual reading with handholds. To discuss how RFID increases inventory accuracy and visibility, we couldn't ask for two better speakers to explore this topic with you. Matt Smith is Director of Engineering at Smart Label Solutions, or SLS, a company he joined 5 years ago. SLS has one focus: leveraging RFID technology to drastically improve customer supply chain visibility and efficiency with aggressive return on investment. With over 15,000 successful read points implementations, the company's scalability in manufacturing and implementation of RFID solutions is unmatched. As a senior solutions architect with Barcodes Group, Chris Vazelos leads pre-sales discussions with AIDC customers. Focusing on RFID solutions, he's in charge of project discovery and definition, and defines system architecture, including hardware, software, tag, and service components. Thanks for joining us today, Matt and Chris. We'll be covering a lot over the next 30 minutes. Matt and Chris will show you, with help of a video, how much quicker cycle counting can work for you using RFID, and cover why the current state of the technology is so much different than just a few years ago. They will dig into other RFID applications that are commonly combined with cycle counting and tell you how we can help you evaluate if this technology is right for you. Chris, please take it away.
Great. Thank you all for joining today. I appreciate your time. What we want to do to start off is launch a poll within the meeting to get a little bit of information about where everyone is at with RFID. So please go ahead and take a moment to fill out that poll. In the meantime, as an introduction, cycle counting, of course, is oftentimes a daily activity for so many businesses. And frequently they're doing this either with barcode technology or even by hand. Even with firms that have a very high level of accuracy, that still is an intense labor cost. There's a lot of time spent in cycle counting. Where RFID can really, and especially with the solution we're going to show you today, the increase in efficiency, even if you have extremely high accuracy, can return an incredible ROI. And there's a case study. Oh, and I guess the poll is already finished, so we'll just take a look at these results. It looks like right now, the majority of the attendees do not currently have RFID implemented. So this, for many of you, this is something you're exploring. And it looks like maybe about 20% of everybody does have some level of RFID implemented. And a couple folks are here just to check it out, because we've got a couple, it doesn't really seem to apply. But perhaps after you guys look a little bit, you'll see that perhaps there is some benefit for you guys.
And so Chris, I'll kind of discuss some of the case study we've done in the past on cycle counting and how we leverage that. So we did a case study a couple of years back for a retail customer that had to do an annual cycle count at the end of the year, right? High volume, 9 million tags in inventory. We were able to do that cycle count with 4 devices and reading 2.8 million tags per hour, right? And so saving 6 labor days, reducing that inventory down to 1 day, and giving them that high, well above 99% accuracy of that cycle count.
All right, and that's a little video.
So you've seen there kind of an example of how we would use the M800. This is here in our manufacturing facility. As you see, it's a battery powered device. You pick it up with your fork truck. It allows you to raise and lower that device so that you don't have to worry. If I have, some of the facilities we go into are 40-foot tall racks, so I can raise that as high as I can lift my fork truck, which should be to my highest rack. The battery the battery system that we use lasts up to 10 hours. And then if I have use cases where I need to go more than 10 hours, I can add a second battery to that to kind of extend the life of that, right? It's a hot swappable unit. So I can add one more battery and then just continuously run that device if needed. Now, with that being said, most of the time, this use case, it only takes me an hour, maybe two to cycle count my facility. So I don't need necessarily to have that second device. So with this unit sold with just a singular battery for the system, but then, we can upgrade, obviously. So you
Hey,
pick
Mac,
this.
can I ask, as you're going through there, so you mentioned you can lift it up at different heights, but what would you say, how high would you get off of a standard, without the lifted position? Because you do get more than one tier, most likely, right?
Correct. And that depends on what we're trying to do. Are we reading at item level, or are we reading at case level, or are we reading at pallet level? And is that a very dense, hard to read product, or is it pretty easy, right? With pallet level, very easy to read. I'm going to read up to 18 feet just from the floor, right? So I'm going to read very high and I don't even have to lift it up. If I'm going to item level and it may be very dense, I'm going to be about a 8 to 10 foot section of that rack that I'll cover. So typically 2 rack bays, and we'll typically put it in the middle of those 2, run it down, and then raise it up between the next 2, and then come on back down. But it does vary between the use case, obviously, with different use cases being harder to read or easier to read. The M800, how we kind of look at cycle counting with the M800, Chris mentioned this earlier, saving on the labor days, right? A lot of times we go to facilities and they say, hey, I'm 98% accurate, right? My inventory is 98% accurate. I have a team that goes and they cycle count every day, and they get through my inventory, they get through it once a week, once a month, once a quarter, whatever that may be, however big that facility may be. And we look at that, and to us, that's very inefficient. Yes, they're 98% accurate, but they spent 98% of their time counting things that are right. So with the M800, when we deploy that to customers, we say, hey, go take that device, go drive it around your warehouse for an hour. And then at the end of that, you're going to have, I'm going to tell you, hey, you expected to have this, and this is what I had. This is your variance. Now go send a small team to verify, hey, what we didn't see it. Did you see it, right? Is it there? And then verify that inventory is not available. So instead of having a large team to go cycle count, or even a small team that's cycle counting every day, now I can take and be very targeted in how I go and check that cycle count for accuracy. And I spend I send a small team to go count that small percentage of variance. So the M800 really integrates well into the full, we have the SLS View software suite, in which we are, leveraging shipping verification, inventory management, receiving, pick and pack, all sorts of different things. But cycle counting is a small piece of that, put together with everything else, creates a very good inventory management solution. And we can provide that, as well as the tags, for the solution and the service and the support.
So this is something that we have been noticing in the industry, and we'd like to think that SLS and Barcodes Inc. are a part of this, that RFID is really coming into its own. RFID has actually been around for quite a while. It's 2005 that Walmart started some of its trials and started to implement some mandates for their suppliers for RFID. But in general, it's taken a while to get off the ground. What SLS has done is really focused on having purpose-built solutions. So just like this mobile pallet reader, and of course there's some other solutions such as the dock door readers and the conveyor readers. Because they're purpose-built, instead of trying to have a solution that's one size fits all, it is very controlled and very purpose-built and very successful at those applications. And I think that's part of what's going on. People now are also understanding what you can do. Obviously, also, the math is a little different now for the adoption of RFID, both the cost of RFID as well as the cost of labor going up, right? So that's another part of the equation. And of course, you know, it's giving a much higher level of accuracy for many customers, and minimally, even if you have accuracy, as we have already discussed, it's absolutely more time efficient.
And that's where we've really gotten to, right, Chris, is the you know, in 2010, 2011, 2012, we were all putting things together to try to make solutions work for customers, right? And doing different things, like, you know, in cycle counting situations, we're attaching antennas to forklifts, right? And that was where everybody pushed us. Hey, I want to put an antenna on my forklift, so while he's doing his day-to-day activity, I'm cycle counting. Well, now most people lease their forklifts, or they don't, you know, they don't want to maintain that, right? I don't want to have to go through the process of doing that and outfitting a forklift with RFID equipment for it to then be broken or may not be accessible at the time that I want to cycle count. So that's where we went to, we looked at drones for a second, and then we ran into some issues there with OSHA. And then we went toward the M800, which was is a standalone solution. Any of my material handlers can grab that, right? If I'm using the SLS View Suite, we typically like to put a tablet on the forklift to do shipping verification, receiving, and other functions inside the building. That same tablet is what drives this device. So whoever gets done shipping early for the day, hey, you're going to go cycle count the building today, right? If that's the use case, right? So I'm not required to have a specific unit that goes and does this operation. It can be, we go and pick it up with whatever. You can pick it up with a pallet jack, right? We've even built these out to, we've done carts in situations where you don't want to do a pallet, right? It's maybe not an industrial environment. We have solutions around that. So the solutions are there now, and that's really the biggest thing to really hit on. Is in 2010, 2011, we were trying to make things work. Now there's a lot of repeatable, scalable solutions that we've done in many industries and verticals that are ready to deploy. It's just, when do we start, right? It's not, hey, let's go design you a solution. It's, oh, this is what you do. This is the solution that we have for that.
Well, it's born out of the experiments, and this is the successful experiment, right? This is the end solution that came together.
And we're always learning. We're always adding more, right?
Well, and lean inventory, I think this is something that we see a lot, and of course everyone's feeling this now with the supply chain, right? Everyone runs very lean. The world today is making, trying to maintain the minimal stock levels possible to maintain, and it's part of a large movement that's been going on for probably 20 years, and getting to the point where just-in-time delivery became the normal method of doing business. But of course, supply chain issues is even more critical now than it was a few years ago to have accurate inventory counts. I mean, you're seeing that too, right, Matt? A lot of folks, they're trying to solve for just making sure that they have product and they're not, out of stock.
Well, yeah, and a lot of the retail facilities are doing that direct shipment from store, right? So they're getting an order in, and they're shipping it from the closest store to the end user, right, to the customer, and making sure if I think I have this here, and I tell the customer, oh yeah, I'll ship this out today, and I don't have it, I have an issue, right? So knowing my on-hand inventory is super valuable.
Right. Well, and thinking about it, I know I had mentioned mentioned it before. You know, when you're doing that video, here's a barcode device. What do you think it would take to go and count, you know, just your stock room that you were rolling around with the M800 with a barcode scanner? Would you estimate a few hours of time with comparison? Would 10 hours of time, couple guys?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is an RFID manufacturing facility, so my piece quantity count here is probably fairly low to most of our end users out there, but yeah, hours for sure, easily.
Right. And also, I guess I would say here's an RFID handheld, but considering what type of inventory and space you might have, even this technology, I think, I mean, could you make a quick comparison? Because I'd say you'd have to get closer, you'd have
Yep.
to move slower, and I think also just the ability to read every tag on a rack, right? I mean, this is less consistent. I mean, these are great, and they're part of the solutions that we definitely provide, but they don't really compare with the M800.
For sure, and they have their place, right? We use them a lot in retail stores, you know, on the floor, right? They can be used in like exactly what you said. I can scan the racks with those, but how do I scan the rack at 40 feet or even at 12 feet, right?
Right.
Especially a lot of those racks have metal grates, right? So that's going to interfere with the RF and the ability to read those. And then some places in industrial environments, there's forklift traffic only, right? They don't want a person walking down that aisle, especially in the automotive industry, which we deal with a lot here in Michigan. So that's one thing we've always ran into. And you're relying on the user to use it correctly, right? And that's the other side of it. The antenna technology that we leverage and use in multilinear wave and antenna technology is very unique in our industry and something that we use in a lot of our products. But that antenna technology allows us to read a tag in all orientations, right? So using, you know, depending on the device you're using, you're going to use either a linear antenna or a circular polarized antenna, which will require you to do some sort of a motion with your hand to get different orientations and different reads, right? Whereas, you know, our device, it's pick it up, you're going to get the same performance every time you pick it up, and we're able to run a higher power on that, and we're able to read, you know, where we use those same antennas and read at a dock door, very, very controlled in a very, you know, a small 10-foot by 9-foot space. I take that out to cycle counting and I can read out to 50 or 60 feet because I'm using a different configuration. So I can really make sure I'm reading everything in my inventory much faster, much more controlled.
Right.
So I did see a couple questions here that popped through. Would this be a good time to jump into a couple of those, Evan?
Yeah, go ahead. If you see some that apply to what you're talking about, absolutely.
Yeah, so the one that's related to software, right? And how so Mike asked this question, how do you keep from double counting, right? So we are double counting. We're reading things, you know, depending on how you configure your reader, I'm going to read it, you know, several times you know, a minute probably, right? I'm going to read it once a second, and how we typically configure your reader. I take that and I use software to only send me the valuable data, right? In all of our solutions, the dock doors, the tunnels, and all of that, right? So if I cycle count a facility and I only want to send that tag once, right? I want to make sure I stay within the bandwidth of that facility. We work in a lot of automotive areas, a lot of industrial environments where those networks aren't super robust. I don't want to send, you know, 30 tag reads a second or, you know, 300 tag reads a second over the network, right? And then do that hundreds of times for each tag, right? So we do some things on the end on the software side of that to only send you one tag read. We may read it a few times, but we filter it off at the reader. That's only getting sent through to the device once. And then I seen another question there related to retail and how we would do that from item to case to pallet. So our software package and a lot of other companies out there are pushing the GS1 standard, and we are wholeheartedly behind that. And it is designed to be able to leverage different packs and quantity, or different pack outs for products, and different standards for different things, right? If I have a GRAI, which is a GS1 standard, that's a returnable pallet or a tote, right? If I have a GTIN, that's an item level, that's a shoe or a and then I have a case label, you know, an SSCC, right? And I pull that in, and I now know by reading that and decoding it, I know if I have a case of something, a pallet of something, or an item of something. And using like the tunnel here in this picture, right? I can say, I can now associate items to case to pallet, and then a pallet tag out the door, or I can, associate all those cases together and just read a few of those cases and know that that whole pallet's here, right? And then with cycle counting, I can do my cycle counting to whatever degree I want to do it to, right? I can set my device up to go cycle count and say, hey, I want to cycle count to the item level because I don't know that the integrity of the case is correct, right? So I go through and I say, I'm cycle counting to the item level. I don't read anything else. I just read the item level products. I don't read any of the cases. I don't read any of the pallets. But in other situations, we might say, hey, let's just read the case, right? Or maybe you only tag the case, right? Maybe you don't tag the items, right? We then just focus on the case level. So there's a lot of different ways on how that works. It just depends on how the use case, how we're going to deploy that.
Well, I think a good question that's easy that I saw from Anonymous, can you connect the cloud-based inventory, connect to cloud-based inventory applications? So,
absolutely, yeah. So we
right.
we integrate with all the large ERP, WMS systems out there through APIs and whatnot. So yes, that's very, very common in every application that we have out there today. They're very good at WMS. Let them do WMS. We're gonna handle the RFID inventory, and we're gonna send them what they need. They don't want to consume that. If you talk to all those those large companies out there, they don't want to sit there and consume 30 tag reads for an individual item, right? They want to consume the important stuff. So that's what we provide them, and we work very closely with them in doing so.
So could you quickly touch on a couple of scenarios like we see on the screen? I'm sure, not too many people implement RFID just for cycle counting only. So how does that normally work? Well, what is the initial need, and then how does cycle counting gets maybe added to that?
Yeah, so our largest is shipping verification. That's where we spend, that's where we have a lot of dock door solutions deployed, and that's saying, hey, I want to make sure the right thing goes on the right truck to the right end user, right, to the right customer, or the right, maybe I'm just cross docking between buildings, or maybe I'm sending out to my customers, right? And verifying that, and also alarming if I have an error, right? Hey, I put the wrong pallet on the wrong truck, send an alarm. Or I put something that was in QA hold that managed to make it over, and it went onto the truck, and that can't leave this building. That we would alarm on as well. So leveraging shipping verification and receiving, right? So I create that shipment, and then I receive it on the other end, and now there should be nothing. It should be 100% accurate between everything, right? So there's no loss in the middle. And then that works in with that omni-channel, the pick pack, right? And making sure that if I tell my customer, hey, you have this order coming, and I'm 100% accurate on it, they can be 100% accurate to their customer, right? Compared to, hey, I thought I was getting this, but I ended up getting 95% of that, and now I'm short on what I need, right? So that's very important. We use the tunnels a lot in solutions where we might want to go and say, hey, I pick and pack to a case, different, in retail especially, right? Different items and styles and sizes, and I throw those on a tunnel, and I to an order, right? Like an online order, and I got 10 t-shirts of different sizes and styles. Do I have the right ones in here, right? I can do that on the fly through the tunnel. If everything's correct, it continues on. If it's not, we kick it off the line and it gets inspected. We take that over to an RFID enabled table, which isn't pictured here, where we can then inspect that box and say, hey, what is exactly wrong? What needs to be corrected? And speed that out, right? So container tracking, yes, that's probably where we started. That's where in 2010, that was what was really doable, right? Very, very easy, but it's still something that a lot of customers are just getting into. We've had customers in just today getting into container tracking of returnable containers, and it's very straightforward, but you still need to have a robust solution around that, right, to provide that accuracy. Robotics. So this is something that we're currently working on. So SLS will be releasing a product here this summer that will be on the Fetch robot and be a cycle counting device that can be robotic. So 3-4 years ago, we had a robot. Nobody ever used it. Nobody ever bought it. We just had it to say, this is what we can do. We can build one, but it's expensive, right? And now now we're getting a lot of push towards this direction because of the difficulty in finding labor and actually taking a material handler away from his job. And having him move a pallet around a cycle count. Now I can take a robot and this can do it after hours. It can do it all day. It just always does it, right? So we see a lot of projects moving that direction. We're going to deploy a few this year, and it is a new and up and coming thing in the RFID industry. It's really getting refined right now, and I think we're going to be able to provide much better locations to where that product is, leveraging robots. So it's exciting for us. It's a new one that we're working on.
Well, and it's great synergy with Barcodes Inc. because we already have relationships and work with robotics, especially, AMRs and similar systems like this. So this is wonderful. And I will comment that this will be the best RFID robot out there because it's going to have the best RFID readers attached to them. And I say that proudly and confidently. We only have a couple minutes left. So I just want to comment, there's lots of great questions in here. We want to talk a little bit about this and try to get through some of them, but just making a comment, please reach out to us, right? You might have contacts who are your sales reps, and of course, there's contact information. You can email us. And of course, we can actually talk to you one-on-one and your organizations. Okay, so I just want to make that comment because we are running up out of time. I'm sure many people here will have to go, and we do want to answer your questions. We want to tell you how it works, and we want to address your specific concerns. And that actually kind of is part of the evaluation. So if we can go back one slide just to talk about what the different things that we might do to help. Obviously, our processes are that we're going to have a discovery, and usually over the telephone, right? We're going to find out what your business is like and try to find opportunities to increase your efficiencies and get you good ROI, right, on using RFID and evaluate that. We have a few different ways that we do that, both testing in the lab. You already saw that. Matt is one of the people who performs some of those tests amongst many on his team. We do come on site, and that might be for an assessment to just see where it fits in. It might be to test. We've already defined some parameters, and we come on site with equipment and with tags, and we ensure that we're getting tuning everything to get the best performance. And for going back to where we started, these are very purpose-built and proven solutions in specific areas, but we do work for unique opportunities where these solutions aren't an exact fit. Then we can come on site with a plan to test that out using a variety of the tools that we have. So so we have to get specific to your environment, and it starts out with a call. So please do contact us if you guys want to learn more and see how it can benefit you.
Yeah, that's great. And we look forward to following up with you as well to discuss how RFID can help your business. So if you would like to receive an evaluation to discuss how RFID can improve your company's inventory accuracy and efficiency, please send us an email or complete a schedule request on either of the listed websites. We have reached the bottom of the hour. I know that Matt and Chris are available to answer some of the questions. For those that have to leave us, thanks for your attendance, but we will continue just to get through some of the questions that we have. Do you want to pick them out, Matt or Chris, or you want me to read them through?
Yeah, so I could answer about 50% of them, I think, in one swoop here. I see a lot of questions related to, can you integrate with X WMS system? More than likely, yes. We haven't ran into one yet. We could not. Our software is designed to, we have a piece of that is purpose built for that integration, right? So it's a very simple process. It doesn't require much customization from either side. It's very much just a pass of data, very similar to how they might pass data between other systems previously. So if you have a specific WMS system that you have questions about, reach out and we will definitely be able to answer that. Most of them we have anything that's any of the WMSs like SAP, Manhattan, Oracle, high jumps, different things like that, and any other. There's so many of them, right? So that is something we definitely can do.
And I guess I want to just comment. There's a few questions about tags, asking about cost. It kind of ties in with how far can you read, and there's a variety of tags. There are labels that are pretty much disposable and pretty low cost that you might start out at 12 cents a piece for very easy, pallet level labels, some kind of confirmation there. But there's such a variety, and that goes up to having more permanent labels when it's appropriate, special on metal labels that are printable. There is a giant variety of hard tags, and of course, most of the time with cycle counting, that doesn't come up, but you might be cycle counting a fleet of rental vehicles, right? I mean, there are so many reasons that you might utilize cycle counting or any of these other RFID applications. So unfortunately, there's a huge variety of tags, but I'd say that 12 cents for a starting paper tag that's got a decent 30-foot read range, probably 50 to 75 cents a tag for an on-metal printable tag, somewhere in there. And again, no, that's not counting any volumes. Hard tags can range from $1.50 to $5 a tag. That's the average range, depending on how rugged. Is it high heat? Is it autoclavable? What is the application for that hard tag? And of course, both of our companies are very familiar with all of the different makers in the industry for those hard tags, and SLS has a line of really high performing labels that that are available too, that they've really tested out and really fit these common applications of pallet aggregation, of shipping verification, cycle counting, pick to pack. I mean, so
Yeah,
there's a variety. I'm sorry, there's not one answer for that. And they have different properties too, besides just how much they cost. There's sizes, and that can relate to read range, different chips, and so forth. But that's why you come to experts like Matt and Barcodes Inc., and we approach it by getting specific to your application.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like there one tag is not made to solve every issue, right? There's tags for metal, there's tags for different kinds of rubbers and plastic and different things like that. And
glass.
We have a 10,000 square foot lab here that we do all of our product development testing. One of those biggest things we do and offer to our customers is testing of tags and understanding that tag on different substrates and how it's going to perform, and then providing that information back to our customers. It doesn't necessarily have to be an SLS tag, right? We work with lots of the major tag providers out there where we can, I can provide you, here's 5 really good tags that all work really well. Here's this one, no, don't use this one because of a specific reason. And we do that for a lot of our customers because it's very, very important for the whole solution, right? One of the biggest mistakes that we run into out there is, and it's happened time and time again, is, hey, we wanted to put RFID on our stuff. We weren't ready to do the solution yet. And we just started throwing a tag on it that somebody just told us to use. Not necessarily always bad, but usually you're ending up setting yourself up for failure, especially if you have different, you might have 3 different types of products, right? I might have metal racks, plastic totes, and cardboard boxes. That isn't necessarily one specific tag. It's at least 2, right? Because the metal tag is going to be different than the plastic and the cardboard, the corrugated the tag. But we will always then look to find that second tag that's going to work on the corrugated and the plastic as consistently as possible. To design good solutions, we need to make sure the tags, if I have multiple tags because of the solution requires that I have to have multiple types of tags, I want to make sure they all perform very closely together and I don't have this wide band to tune to once I'm doing my shipping verification, my receiving. So that is the full solution design is really what we are looking to help with and provide. That's why you see a lot of the, how we go about it, right? There's a discovery call, and then we're going to do an on-site visit. That on-site visit is to walk through your facility and to understand how you can leverage RFID technology, and then how we can also create the simplest solution, because simple solutions are scalable. So that we'll always end up in that direction.
And I can add to this that on Wednesday, August 3rd, our next webinar in the RFID series will be dedicated to tags and inlays and encoding standards. So look out for an invitation later in July when we will let you know how you can sign up for that. Is there one more topic that you kind of see coming in through the questions with which we can close it up, Matt and Chris?
Can I say just, Matt, can you talk about just people really want to, could you give a few examples? Because there's a lot of questions about my racks look like this.
Yep.
Can the M800 read? Could you just talk a little bit more about performance on the M800? That would be great.
Yeah, so we have a couple different, I'll go through a few. So I have a customer that does a cross dock. They bring in a bunch of pallets and they ship a bunch of pallets. At the end of the day, so they bring in those pallets and they stage them, right? And those staging lanes are 120 feet long, right? 2 truckloads, right? And then they might not ship everything by the end of the day. So we go around and we make sure, hey, everything that's supposed to be here is here, right? And so I'm reading in, and I can only read in because they're staging lanes. I can only read in, I'm 60 feet to the closest tag, right? And we're able to read that at a high degree of accuracy in one loop around the outside and read everything. It's at floor level, right? Because it's getting ready to be loaded on a truck. But I'm reading in, 60 feet from each end to read that full 120 feet. So solutions such as that. Now that's a pallet level type solution.
You cannot do that
You
with
had a
one of these.
solution that was 6,000 things, item level tagged on a pallet, and they were 60 feet away. I would tell you that's a much different use case. That would be much harder. And then in solutions like the one where we did the case study that we mentioned earlier, right? That's it's bulk packed RFID enabled garments, right? So they come in from overseas and they get put into big gaylords with 12 to 1,500 articles of clothing inside of them, all RFID tagged, and then they're stacked 9 high and they're just in lines, right? and 9 million of them in inventory, right? And we will go down and we will read those, right? And that is now, in that solution, we have to slow the device down because we can only read in a cycle counting situation, we're running specific read modes where we're reading about 800 tags a second. So if I have 40,000 tags in the field of view, now I have to slow the device down, but I can still read everything, right? And so we do a lot of things there in high volumes and manage that data once again, so that I don't have to bombard my network with 9 million tags times 5, right? I just read 9 million tags and you get one of them, right? So those are some different solutions.
Can I comment on that one? And the alternative is you don't count that inventory. No one's going to count those gaylords with 1,500 pieces in them, right? I mean, the labor cost to do it isn't worth the inventory cost. So this is the only way to achieve that, and that sometimes is what RFID enables. Yeah.
And then the last one that I would have is just racked apparel, racked items, racked anything, right? And then roller racks. We run into those a lot where it's, the roll through racks where you get, your 5, 6, 7 pallets deep. If we're reading case and pallet level, no problem at all. Item level, it depends on what kind of items, right? So a lot of this is use case dependent. So it's nothing's concrete, especially with RFID, but it is something that we can, that's what we come on site. We will very quickly tell you, yes, we can, or no, we can't. Because we, just like you don't want us to waste a bunch of your time doing something that can't be done. We don't want to waste a bunch of our time trying to do something that can't be done. We're very quick to say, hey, this will work and we can do this. Or that's not how this can work, but there are these ways that we can go about it, right? So, and they're usually in almost every situation I've been in to date. We can always work through a solution. It's just, how do we leverage everything you do today to create that solution?
Yeah, and that's a good maybe closing up. So if you are interested in an evaluation, please reach out to us. We will also follow up with you, especially when you had questions that weren't answered here. I do want to thank both Matt and Chris for presenting today. It was very insightful and lots of questions. So RFID is indeed hitting its stride right now. Thank you for the attendance of all of you taking the time. Look forward to a follow-up call with you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.